Welcome, everyone, to a new episode of Don't Be a Loser. We will go over 5 of the latest relationship related comments. And remember, a loser is someone who simply gives up on love and lives miserable forever in denial, pretending to be happy. Let us go ahead and begin, shall we? All right. First one on the chopping block. As a married woman, I learned to stop giving advice on marriage or even just relationships in general because you're not married to my husband and I am not your husband's wife. So my experiences don't apply to you. That's a very scaredy cat comment here. Wow. This is absolutely ridiculous. It's a ridiculous thing to say. I'm willing to bet that she has a mediocre or poor marriage. That's what it sounds like. Because when someone is happily in love, such as myself, they always want to give positive relationship advice to those who actually ask for it. Only a loser would say this. Absolutely. So she believes that her experience means nothing. So that only tells me that her relationship is meaningless. And she says, I learned to stop giving advice on marriage or even just relationships in general. How can you learn by giving up on doing something good for others? It's not mandatory. She doesn't have to give advice to others, but it really does beg the question. Of course, your experience is not the same as anybody else's, but how different do you think your experience is? Hello, there's something called love involved, hopefully, because it doesn't sound like it. I mean, it's really naive to believe that her experience is so much different than everybody else's that, oh, I just can't give advice because anything I say, what? Fill in the blank. Yeah, this is quite a disappointment. We're going to open up the show with already a loser comment. This is something a loser would say. I don't think she's happy in her marriage. And yes, I can say that with full confidence. Once again, if somebody's really happy in their marriage, you want to help others feel the same. It's a natural desire, and it is universal. If you're winning at something, in this case, winning at life with love, not being a loser, then you want to share that with others, how to do it. It's why there's coaches in sports. It's why I'm a relationship coach. It's why teachers teach students martial arts to others, adults and children alike. It's why we learn, and it's really ironic how she uses the word learned. You didn't learn anything. You learned to just keep your mouth shut because you doubt what you have to say is actually useful. All you're telling me here with this comment is that you don't have confidence in your marriage to share with other people to benefit them so that they can learn from your knowledge and wisdom. Here you're saying, you know what, I just gave up talking about relationships. Why? Because you're tired of talking about them? Once again, you're not obligated to do so. But this is an attitude problem. This is a loser's attitude. And that's what I'm going to say about this one. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one, shall we? What a way to open up the show already with the loser's attitude comment. Women who have experienced deep trauma need emotionally regulated men. We need men, not boys. Okay, quite a powerful statement here. I think what she's saying here is true, but it's also true that everyone, man or woman, needs to be their own support as well. So you can't just rely on the man or the woman, whichever one you are. In other words, help your partner help you. Your past negative experiences are not your partner's fault. So that deep trauma that she's talking about here, you need a man, not a boy. Well, just take into account that your new relationship, he's not going to be your psychologist. You need to go take care of that on the side. Your partner is supposed to soothe and comfort you, but that's not supposed to be their main job. You have to help him help you, because you can't just go to your partner and be like, "Hey, you need to listen to my traumas 24/7 and you need to deal with them because that's what love is all about." No. Love is all about strength, not weakness. So if you can't solve your PTSD issues on your own primarily, your partner is going to support you because, yes, that's what a loving partner does. But keep in mind, they are not your psychologists. So if you have problems, go see a psychologist on the side. Your partner is going to do what they can to comfort you, those past traumas. But if it presents a clear and present danger to your relationship now and going forward in the future, that's a huge red flag. That means you're not ready for a serious committed relationship due to your past traumas. Understand? So you have to fix yourself before you end up breaking yourself. And that's your fault because you can't put all that pressure on your partner to fix your mental and emotional traumas. They'll try, but that's not fair to put it all on them. Go see a professional on the side. So in this particular comment, we need men, not boys. Yeah, well, men need women too. We don't need little girls, right? We don't need immature girls who don't know how to deal with their past traumas either. It sounds heartless, but it's not. It's called being mature. It's called being strong. So, where's your strength? Where's your maturity? So, we need men, not boys. You know, it really does sound like she's relying on a man to help her, deal with her emotional, deep trauma here. I don't like the attitude. I don't. It's a fair comment by demanding men and not boys, but I mean, we already know you're looking for another man, so deep trauma need emotionally regulated men. Okay, but you're. Here's the reason why I'm having such an issue with this comment is you're not emotionally regulated due to your deep trauma, your PTSD. This is a mirror effect. You're actually looking into a mirror and exposing yourself as the only one with the problem here, with the deep trauma. So you need to emotionally regulate yourself, mentally and emotionally regulate. Now, this isn't necessarily a loser statement here, and it is borderline fair, but it is leaning more towards the loser's mentality. You know what? I'm going to slap a loser sticker on here. It is. Because it's one thing to demand, okay, I want a real man, not a young immature, well, she says boy, but let's be factual here. No woman is going to date a boy, okay? It's just a slang for a more immature man, not fully developed yet. Like, say, a man in his 30s or 40s. Maybe a young man is what she's referring to by boys. So she says, we need men. Okay, but they're not your psychologists. And you're the one exposing yourself as being the one who needs to emotionally regulate yourself. So this is very weak, and I'm going to associate the weakness with the word loser here because she's losing the point. She's missing the point. And she has a lot more to lose and cause her future partner to lose a lot. A lot of time, a lot of energy, years of their life with someone weak-minded, emotionally weak as this person. All right, I think that deals with it completely there. So let's go ahead and move on, shall we? All right, next comment. Let's go ahead and see here. Okay. I was chatting with a colleague today about dating later in life. He said it's harder once people reach a certain age because they are quote unquote set in their ways and less willing to compromise. Do you think that's true? Or is it just about finding someone whose life path actually aligns with yours. Okay? Almost everyone older than 30 years old, I'd say, is already permanently set in their ways. Yeah, it's more common than not. But it's not about matching someone else's path in life. I don't quite agree with that part. It's more strictly about finding someone willing to change with you without compromise. I don't like compromise. Becoming each other's perfect partner. You can't achieve perfection. You can't become a perfect partner with your perfect partner if you guys are constantly compromising. Well, let me give up this so we can have that. Well, you give up this so we can have that. You can have it all. You can have your cake and eat it too. The problem is people don't want to work through the details in order to accommodate everything. There's always a way. But when you start compromising, oh, okay, I'm going to give up this for that, you're only going to be compromising more down the road. Understand? Giving up things that you shouldn't be giving up. You should actually be working on them instead. It's all encompassing. It's all inclusive. It's all or nothing, right? Sometimes if you have to make a compromise, you're only supposed to postpone that to be satisfied at a later date. If you're going to compromise anything, it must be satisfied. You can't compromise something and permanently lose it, or at a time where you need it most. Once you start compromising, you start playing the loser game. You start missing out. So let's go ahead and look at this from a fair perspective, shall we? Yes, like I said, permanently set in their ways, absolutely. About age 30, I would slap a date on that, an age. About age 30. You're still young, but you should have your mind made up. I mean, there's a lot of immature 30-year-olds on both sides, men and women, but you should be set in your ways at about in your 30s. Let's be fair, in your 30s. Permanently, well, a wise, intelligent, and passionate individual is always open to change, but if they're already wise and passionate and intelligent, then they're already set in some positive ways. But once again, not compromising. You guys can accommodate each other's needs perfectly fine. Let's go ahead and rate this comment here. Okay, so it's mainly a curious comment. Yeah, okay, so it's a fair comment. That's pretty much all it is. It's not offering anything, a winner's attitude, a loser's attitude. It's just a fair comment. But yeah, I mean, it is harder with the older you go because they are more set in their ways, but there's also the stubborn immaturity of younger people who they act like they're already set in their ways, and then maybe later on life they change their ways anyways. So it's kind of a melting pot of possibilities, I would say. It's not necessarily guaranteed, it's just more likely that they're already set in their ways the older they are. So yes, pretty much for the most part. All right, next comment. Relationships don't work nowadays because this generation thinks it's okay to ignore the person and the problem when they're mad instead of being mature and communicating. Okay, yeah, that sounds fair. Many people are used to running away from their problems instead of facing them as soon as they occur. If you are ever upset in your relationship, you must be able to talk about the problem with your partner. That's what I always say. And the sooner the better. Otherwise, it's a failing, immature relationship. If you have to run away from problems, you're going to be running away from more problems in the future. And problems are there to be solved. They're not there so you can react emotionally negatively and say, oh, I can't handle this. I need to just leave the place and I need to run away. You're running away from your partner. You're turning your back on your partner. I don't care if it's an argument, a tough situation. You face it together and you face it the best as you can together as a team, even if you're disagreeing with each other. Now, granted, it's not an abusive scenario where there's verbal abuse going on. That could be forgiven. It depends on the severity. But even then, if you really love each other, you guys are going to get through that storm. It's the calm after the storm, not before the storm. But you guys have to earn that calm after the storm. You got to simmer things down, de-escalate the situation. So if you're mad, well, nothing should make you mad in a relationship, but if you're still getting mad, it's a sign of either immaturity or emotional instability. So one's mental, one's emotional. You have to break the chain and stop the habit of getting upset over little things. And a lot of times, men these days complain that it's the women's fault. Yeah, a lot of it is because they get angry over the littlest thing, but also the men could get irritated over the littlest thing. It all depends on how patient and understanding you are as an individual on a case by case basis. But yeah, there could be signs of immaturity, signs of weakness, mental and emotional weakness. All of this needs to be addressed. You have to face your fears if you are to conquer them. So there's no problem too big in a relationship, a serious relationship. So with that said, I don't know which generation they're talking about here, but don't work nowadays. No, relationships can work. This isn't a blanket statement here as they're putting it, because that's kind of immature to say. But you shouldn't ignore the person and the problem that they're, when they're mad. So I would say this isn't a winning comment. It's just a basic observation that there's less patient people these days in relationships. So I'm going to slap it with a fair comment. It's a fair comment. Let's be fair. Just a basic observation that maturity and communication are key in order for a relationship to function. Let's go ahead and move on, shall we? All right. Last comment of the show. Expecting your change back or to be paid back when you're in a relationship is weird to me. All right. Yeah. Well, this goes down to the monetary part of a relationship, the financial issues. Many people are used to running away from this as well. They'll pretend that this doesn't matter, or they'll be more passive. No, this isn't such a big deal. And it all depends on personality as well. Let me explain. It's actually not weird if your partner buys dinner, for example, and says not to worry about paying them back. I mean, that's very sweet and kind. And, maybe you'll do the same. But if they do ask you to repay them when possible, not like right away, hey, you will pay me back on this day. That is weird. I mean, but due to financial troubles or something you're going through at the moment, a concern, a monetary concern, if you guys don't share the same bank account, you have separate bank accounts, there's situations. Then you should feel obligated to do so, to pay them back. And love is a funny thing because when it comes to finances, when you guys have separate bank accounts, sometimes you want to go the extra mile and be like, hey, I'll pay you back with interest because you were so patient waiting for me to pay you back if it was an expensive thing. It's between you and your partner. It's not an obligation, but you should feel in debt if they did something very special for you monetarily. Now, if for whatever reason you can't pay them back, I mean, you guys aren't banks, for crying out loud. Again, it's up to both of you, but generally speaking, that's why they have the saying, go Dutch, 50-50, right? You pay for your food, I pay for mine, even when you're married. Sure, in a dual working relationship, or regardless if it's dual working. If it makes sense, do it, but this has to be agreed with your partner. So it's really tricky to say. This is really on a case by case basis and the way things are said. It's always going to be forever a major cause of breakups and divorces are financial arguments and disagreements, issues, you name it. But I'm going to say, judging this comment for what it's worth, it's weird to me. No, it shouldn't be weird. Like I said, it all depends on the case. But, this person did bring up an interesting topic, so I'm going to go once again with it's a fair comment. It's a basic observation once again. I find it a little weird. Okay, maybe you're not used to it, but if it matters to your partner that you pay them back because they're doing you a favor, you should want to pay them back. It's like the trust system, the honor protocol. If you don't have a sense of honor, if you don't feel in debt, Hey, you know what? You'll help me now pay for this, and I'll pay for this later, the equivalent, roughly, or just work it out. It's not a big deal. It shouldn't be a big deal unless it really is a big deal. Like, hey, I just paid $100 for all this stuff when I can barely afford it. You don't mind if you hit me back? It's not. You're not being broke, him or her. It doesn't matter if it's the wife or husband or girlfriend, boyfriend here. It doesn't necessarily matter. Like I said, it's case by case. I know it's a sensitive issue. It's a sensitive topic. I get it. But it's where it gets more and more specific, and it gets to what both you and her are capable of agreeing and disagreeing on. You guys got to work that out between. But it's not weird. It's very common. It's more common than you think. So, like I said, not obligated, but you should feel like, hey, I think I should pay you back somehow. And it doesn't always have to be monetarily. I mean, it's we're not talking about prostitution here, but let's say you take her out to a really fancy, expensive dinner, with everything, all the bells and whistles. Well, I mean, if I was a woman, I would want to repay the guy back, you know, and you're not really paying him back intimately, but that's one way to show him your gratitude. You understand? It's not prostitution. It's showing gratitude. For instance, if she buys you a gift, it's the same thing. Like, hey, honey, I'm going to give you some massages, or we're going to go to that trip that you always wanted. You want to do something for her, just like she. That's what it comes down to, people. When your partner does something for you or you do something for her, there should be that give and take, because it's a pleasure to give and it's an honor to receive. And if both of you can reciprocate that and both do that together, there's a constant cycle of, wow, I feel in your debt. Now I want to repay you back, maybe even double. It's a beautiful thing. It really is, whether it involves money or not. That's not the point. The point is to give back somehow, show your gratitude. It's the thought that counts many times, which is just priceless. You ever heard of a priceless moment? So yes, the power of sexuality, that's one way of showing gratitude. The power of just simple company. Hey, let's go shopping together, and go to that store that I don't like going to, but I'll do it for you, without any bad attitude. Just just be creative. Do something for your partner, and that shouldn't happen, by the way, but it's just a small little example. So with that said, if you have a comment that you would like for me to go over on this show, put it down in the comment section down below. And I hope you enjoyed this episode of Coach Ben's Don't Be a Loser. Until next time, much love, everybody.